Joel Embiid is all the way back. Kelly Oubre finds his rhythm. And could the Sixers be moving up the Eastern Conference standings? We talk about that more in next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Hello, I'm Keith Pompey, and this is my right-hand man, John Mitchell. We are the co-hosts of Locked On 76ers. And Mitch, we got a lot to talk about. Last night, the 76ers, they boat raced, but they didn't rev the engine until like halfway through.
Until it was mandatory.
Until it was mandatory. But Joel Embiid comes out with another dominant performance. I mean, at 37. He had 37 points. And the thing I liked about it, he was extremely consistent. Kelly Oubre had a big game, but you know what? It was about Buddy Hield. I mean, Buddy Hield was one of the things where you talked about yesterday where you said there's always this team that you go ahead and you dominate.
Yeah.
And we got to figure out if that was the only thing it was about, if it was all about just playing the Pistons, or is this stuff legitimate or not? So we'll talk about that. And then also the playoff race. The Sixers, man, last night it was crazy in the locker room, Mitch. Everybody was watching the Miami Heat game. They were watching some other games. I'm talking about the players.
Scoreboard watching.
Yeah, they was doing some serious. So whenever a coach tells you, nah, we don't watch the scoreboard, look, he can't say that to us because asked about everybody, and even some reporters, they had their cell phones out, and everybody was together watching the game. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy last night. But that's just how it is. Joel comes out of the shower and walks over to one of his teammates like, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was crazy. So it is what it is. So we got a lot to talk about. But let me tell you this. Joel looked good last night, man. And the thing that really impressed me was typically Joel's the type of guy who a lot of times he'll have a dominant first quarter or a dominant second quarter or second half he just turned it on. This one was like a steady butt whipping. And it was like, it was kind of like, at one point he was shooting 7 for 9, and he had like maybe 20 points. I mean, like it was ridiculous. Like he scored like 10 points in the first quarter, 10 points in the second quarter, right? And then he came back and was extremely consistent the last two quarters as well. So to me it was steady, man, and he looked like the player that he used to. Like, it wasn't I'm concerned about the knee. It was like, hey, I'm doing this Euro step. You can't stop me. I'm blocking shots. He did a lot of things. He was a dominant player yesterday.
Yeah, he's starting to resemble that player, who was 30 points every night, 35 points every night. And I mean, I'm surprised. I thought, when they were talking about this going to be a ramp-up process, I was like, man, you only have, you come back with 6-7 games left in the regular season. What kind of ramp-up process can you really do for a guy who's 7'1", 7'2", 290 pounds? And, last night was probably his most complete game. I mean, he almost notched a triple-double. I mean, we're talking about 37 points, 11 boards, and 8 assists. It's like, Joel's rolling. Joel's rolling, and it's good to see that from him now. It's good to see that they're one of the hottest teams in the league, and they're playing hot at the right time. So, yeah, it's they look good. And he looks good. He specifically looks good. You turn on ESPN or any of the shows, and the first thing they're talking about, it seems like just about every day, is, hey, did you see the Sixers last night? Greeny, did you see the Sixers last night? Stephen A, did you see the Sixers last night? So, and they've credit to them and their coaching staff. They played well with the absence of Joel. Kelly Oubre has stepped up, as you touched on, and we even had a Buddy Hield sighting last night.
Yeah. That was a huge sight. I mean, Buddy Hield was, here's the thing. Buddy Hield had 5 and 9 3-pointers. It was he finished with 18 points. He shot 6 for 12 from the line. From the field. The thing is, he was a game best plus 21 in his 25 minutes, 27 seconds playing. So, which means, folks, he outscored while he was on the floor. The 76ers outscored the Pistons 21 points. Now, the thing about Buddy is he had 5 threes. That's the third time that Buddy had 5 threes as a Sixer. But the first 2 times came in like early in his, first couple games. Like one came on February the 12th. The other one was like the Valentine's Day 3-point massacre where he was just raining threes on dudes. But, aside from that, like he's basically been struggling. And what they talked about yesterday was being in rhythm. Like, and not only that, being patient, meaning like, you be patient because the ball's going to come back to you. Like, don't worry about it. Just stay there. The ball's going to find you when you're playing with Joel. And that's what happened. Now, to be honest with you, it's bigger than that because the ball found him in the game against the Memphis Grizzlies, right? The ball found him. He just was straight bricking, right?
Yeah, he wasn't making shots.
He just wasn't making shots. Now I know that his family was here and all that, so maybe that's pretty good. But who knows? Maybe he's just finally finding his groove, taking the pressure off of him and doing things. But he played well. I mean, he had 6 rebounds, 2 offensive.
Mm-hmm.
He had, he did have a turnover. But, the one thing that gets me is I need to see this guy get to the foul line more. Like, for whatever reason, I don't even know if it's him or if it's the refs. He just doesn't get to the foul line. But he had a great shooting performance. I give him that. I give him his credit, give him his flowers, when he deserves them because he did play well.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like you, man. He's becoming a player. Well, he is a player who kind of lives and dies by the three. I know we had that stretch earlier. When he first after the trade, he was averaging almost 20 points per game, shooting the ball nearly 50%. But then the threes they weren't falling as often, and I think a lot of it was, and I know this is how I was looking at it, was that I'm going to wait for him to get to the. I kind of, if Joel comes back, and again, Joel playing the way he's playing now is a bonus because I didn't think he would be playing this well. But he's hitting, he's hitting his jumper, and that's what Buddy Hield's known for. He's a leading 3-point shooter in the NBA, and when he makes those shots, and without Tyrese Maxey in there last night, without Kyle Lowry available to the 76ers, he had more opportunities last night. And he took advantage of them, but it's they're working players back into the lineup. D'Anthony Melton is now back with the team. Thank God. Keep your fingers crossed. And we'll see. Hopefully he can stay on point. I think I'm kind of a Buddy Hield believer. He's not a shot creator, but he can make a 3-point shot. And like you said, the whole coaching aspect of him being ready and prepared to shoot the basketball, and just wait for it to come to him, because Joel's the kind of guy who can do that. He's going to draw the double team in the high post. He's going to draw the double team in the low post. And you just have to be ready and patient to act on it when your number gets called. When your number gets called, you got to be ready. And Buddy Hield was ready last night. He was ready last night.
Yeah, again, I gotta see it. Like I want to see it. I want to see Buddy Hield, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, and I don't want to be the hater and stuff. But I want to see him do this Friday night in a
Yeah,
clutch
against a real
game
team.
against the Orlando Magic, like a
Yeah,
game that the 76ers need to win. I mean, let's
they
face
have
it,
to
like
win.
yeah,
Yeah, they
this was
have
a
to win it.
team.
Granted, they've won six in a row, but they gotta win these games.
Yeah, they got to win this one. I mean,
Yeah,
like they was in chill mode
yeah,
last.
yeah. Listen, right now, let's talk about game time. You ever been in that situation where you were trying to buy a ticket to a sporting event? Say you're trying to go to Citizens Bank Park and watch the 76ers, and you couldn't find last minute tickets. There were no good deals available, and you had the obstructed view seats. Well, you can get beyond that with game time. With game time, you can get all types of deals, last minute deals. You can view all the seats in the venue ahead of time. You can make sure that you don't have obstructed view seats, so you can get in there and see the Phillies. And you can, it's a great way to to get to the games you want and to access the tickets you want and to sit where you want to sit in the arena or the stadium, since we'll be talking about stadiums much more as the Phillies get in the way. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On NBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Do it today, folks. Do it today. Make sure you can get all this Sixers analysis.
Hey, so here's the thing. We touched on him a little bit in the first segment, and I want to talk about him a little bit more. Joel Embiid. When we talked about his numbers, I talked about him having, what was it, 37 points.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, what Kelly Oubre did. Joel was the most dominant player. He even had even though Kelly Oubre had the best plus minus, Joel had a plus 17. So just to go over stuff, and you talked about it, now the thing about Joel, he did have high turnovers,
Mm-hmm.
but if we're going to be real, Joel is a guy who turns the ball over a lot, like just like Giannis is, just like
Mm-hmm.
Luka is. It just seems like in today's NBA, guys who handle the ball a lot, especially non-point guards who handle the ball. Now, Luka is a point guard, but even James Harden, these are guys who have a lot of turnovers, right?
Right.
Because they have the ball in their hands. So, Joel, break it down: 37 points on 12 for 22 shooting.
Mm-hmm.
He was 4 for 9 on threes. He made 9 of 10 free throws, right? He had 11 rebounds, 2 offensive. He had 8 assists. He had 3 steals and 2 blocks, right? And 30 and so what was so far has been the most minutes that he's played in his 4 games, which was 35 minutes 49 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, he was working on a Euro step. He was doing other things. But the thing that I really like I said again, and I didn't talk about it, I said he had 10 points in the first quarter. He had 10 points in the second quarter, right? Then he came back in the third quarter and he scored 8 points. And then in the fourth quarter, he scored 9. Now, when the Sixers were on cruise control and was just lollygagging, and then whatchamacallit them came back, pulled within 1 point, Joel stepped it up and scored consecutive baskets. And then all of a sudden, that's when the Sixers start revving up that engine to get that boat race going. They also in that quarter, it was weird. Like, they were shooting the ball poorly, but you look at it, it was like that quarter was Joel and Kelly Oubre who helped them. So with that being said, I'm just trying to say that, the guy is there. And as long as he continues to play this way, the Sixers will have a chance. And I kind of, we're talking about the Orlando Magic. I look at it as if like the Magic might be in trouble with Joel. I don't see anybody on that team that's going to be able to stop him.
Yeah, no, he you're right. And the thing that you said about him was, he balanced his scoring out. And to me, that's an indication. I mean, he had 10 the first, 10 the second quarter, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, if he's scoring late in games, that means that he's not fatiguing, and that was, I mean, obviously the rhythm of his game looks like it's bounced right back to where it was before the January 30th incident injury. But they played him 35 minutes last night, and that's a lot of minutes for a guy who's coming back off a 2 months injury for 2 months, and he looks good. Again, it's we're critical of Joel. We've been critical of his play in playoff games, not showing up, but I mean, this whole season, even with him being injured, has been different for him, man. It seems like he's on a mission. They're as hot as any team in the league right now, and it's primarily because that they brought back this guy who had them as the second best team in the league or in the conference before his injury. So as long as he continues to stay healthy, now there were some moments last night, I have to admit, Keith, watching the game on television. There's at one point where he jammed his leg, where he stepped down and landed awkwardly on that leg and went to the bench. And I was like, oh, collectively, you could hear a collective sigh coming from people. But, he walked it off and he got back out there. And again, he's looking like the MVP. He's looking like that. He's had MVP numbers. He has had MVP numbers since his return. They haven't been as good as they were prior, but I mean, he's played like a max deal player since he returned, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. That's all you can ask for, and he played. But yeah, you got to get. The funny part is, the Sixers say publicly they're all like, "Oh, no, we're not concerned." But if I'm concerned, if you're concerned, and if the fans are concerned, that the Sixers are, because every time this guy, I mean, I'll be honest, like when they were in Memphis, I mean, he fell to the floor like 3 times, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this and that. So whenever he lands awkwardly, whenever he does stuff and you're happy, he keeps saying, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. Right? That's Joel. I'm fine. Right? Like he doesn't even want to talk about it. I'm fine. Like he was doing that. But it's like,
he hits the ground entirely too much for me, man.
Yeah.
And he always has.
Always.
He hits the floor like Iverson does. Only he's 120 pounds heavier than Iverson.
Yeah, I mean, you wish him luck, but man, bro.
Yeah.
Like, cause they if put it this way, we talking about playoff race.
Yeah.
Not a game.
Playoff, yeah, it's the playoff race.
But listen, all this stuff we're about to say in this last segment about them in the playoff race, if he gets hurt again, they going back to being a lottery.
It's a playoff disgrace, not a playoff race.
Listen, if he gets hurt again, it's gonna be one of them things where they're gonna be mad that they made the play.
Yeah.
You know what I
mean? Keith, I don't even want to go there, man. I don't even want to put that bad juju on the 76ers, man. Because you know what? they've spent enough time playing without their guy, you know. Well, this next segment is brought to us by our sponsor, BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to say how I feel about something. You might even be thinking about the same thing this week. Now, we all have these little things where, say, a team like the Flyers. If you're a Flyers fan right now, you're agonizing. You're pulling your hair off. But there are bigger things in life as opposed to, a hockey game, a basketball game. There are things that are far more important. And therapy can be different. Therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems in our favorite sport teams. And if you're thinking about therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible, and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. If you need to do it today. Do it right now, because mental health is a serious thing.
Yeah, definitely do it today, people. Definitely do it today. Now, Mitch, here's the thing. So, a lot of people, like we were talking about, I told you, guys were all over. Everybody's watching TV. I mean, watching, checking out the games on cell phones and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the standings. So we got 2 games left for the 76ers. Right now, the 76ers are still a half a game ahead of the Miami Heat. Now, apparently, from what I was told yesterday, is if the Sixers and the Miami Heat finish with identical records and they stay that, Miami is going to host the play-in game.
Ooh.
Because Miami has a better record against conference opponents. Sorry about that. Against conference opponents. So they'll host that. But now the thing is, Orlando Magic is the team. Now, Orlando is a team that's kind of struggling a little bit. They lost last night. They kind of got beat up on against the Houston Rockets. Now, the next game will be against the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the Bucks, Giannis is hurt. He could be out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if they lose that game and they lose to the Sixers, then a lot of stuff is going to get crazy. You know what I mean? And the Sixers will possibly move ahead of them. I mean, that's how tight everything is. So, there's some people thinking that the 76ers have a great chance to not play in the play-in game, play in tournament, play above that. I think that will be phenomenal for them. But at the same time, I want to see how things play out, because a lot of times we come up with these things that if now if was we all be drunk, right?
Right.
But at the same time, there is some hope for the 76ers, man. There's some hope for the 76ers.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, if I'm kind of in the mindset of, you're in the 7th position, just get that home game, for the play-in tournament. Now, I know that I'm looking at Indiana's schedule. They're at Cleveland, and then they've got the Hawks. So we'll see how things go for them in those last 2 games. But right now I'm kind of with the 76ers. I kind of had them. They control their destiny in the play-in. It's a bonus.
Let me hold up. I meant if I was saying Indiana, I'm talking about the Orlando Magic. That's the team. They're not going to catch Indiana, I don't think, but it's the Orlando Magic.
Really?
Yeah.
But they have identical record. I'm looking at it. Orlando's 46-33, and Indiana's 46-34.
But Indiana has the tiebreaker over the Sixers.
Right.
So if you look at Indiana, they got to play. They got 3 games left. So they got the Milwaukee Bucks, the Sixers, Milwaukee Bucks, something like that, right? So that's Orlando, right? And Orlando has been coming apart lately.
Yeah, they have.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're still like 13 games above 500, and they're another team that they're not really built to stop Joel Embiid. And Joel's got he's got an extra day of rest. But they're not playing every other day. They don't play again until Friday. It's a big game for the 76ers. I mean, listen, the Sixers have won 6 in a row. The 8 games they strung together at the start of the season was their largest win streak. Um, they've got to finish the season on an 8-game winning streak. They can't be it would be nice for certain things to break their way, but you got to control what you can control, and what they can control is games against Orlando, games against Brooklyn. These are games they're supposed to win.
Yeah, they got
I think I think they will. I think they will.
The thing that hurt Orlando was that loss on Friday to the Charlotte Hornets. They lost 124 to 115. If they had won that game, they would have been fine. They were rolling like too. And the thing is, they lost 3 straight games. It was weird. Like they've been a little inconsistent because, on March the 23rd, 27th, and 29th, they lost 3 straight games to the Sacramento Kings, the Golden State Warriors, and the Clippers. Now, you would think those games were happening on the road, but no, they were at home. And then they come back, and then they beat Memphis, Portland, and then they beat New Orleans at New Orleans. But then they lose at Charlotte. And, you're saying, well, was it a back-to-back? No, they had a day off in between. And then they come back, and they beat on Sunday. They defeated the Chicago Bulls. And then on Tuesday, they go to Houston, and they were getting boat raced for a while. That's my new word, y'all. And then now they got tonight on a back-to-back. They're at Milwaukee. I think I'm not going to say that's a loss because Milwaukee doesn't have Giannis, and Milwaukee hasn't even been playing really well with Giannis, right? And then they have the Sixers, and then they end the season against Milwaukee. So, I don't know, man. And then like you look at let's look at these standings, man. Like we talked about Indiana, but Indiana has the tiebreaker, right? So you look at it right now, you got the Knicks in 3rd place at 47 and 32. Right? They won 2 in a row. You got Orlando 46 and 33, who we talked about, right? But then you have Cleveland in 5th, 46 and 33. With a 3-game losing streak, right?
Yeah.
So there is some room for the 76ers to move up. But again, they got to control their own destiny. But then at the same time, they're going to watch. Now, here's the problem. So Cleveland, if you're the 76ers, you're hoping and praying that Memphis somehow, some way will be able to pull out a win against Cleveland tonight. Maybe they'll send some extra barbecue to the Cavs room, this and that, right?
They'll be that traveling first aid kit.
Yeah, and hope that they all had a party on Bourbon Street that stayed after hours or something like that. So then after Cleveland plays Memphis tonight, then on Thursday or Friday, rather, they play the Pacers. They play the Pacers.
The Pacers, yeah.
Yeah, and then they have the Hornets. Now, you figure in that they're going to beat the Hornets, right? You figure that they're going to beat the Hornets. But at the same time, you just hope and pray that they just lose 2 of these games. Now, I don't know if they're going to lose 2 of them because it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But I think the Pacers probably trying to battle for a better seed will play. I mean, think about it. It ain't like how it was back in the day. Like back in the day, it's like, you resting guys because you knew you were going to play in a couple of days.
Right.
With the play-in tournament, now they're giving them a week off. So you're giving teams a week off. It's like, look, man, let's get the seed that we really want if it's close. Let's get this seed, and then we'll have a week off to practice and do whatever we can.
Yep.
So, I feel like it's a different mindset when it's so bunched up the way it is.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And but it really works for the 76ers team, man. For a team that did, play so many games without their big guy, and for them to be, I mean, like I don't know what's wrong with Cleveland. But they could, like you said, I mean, they got two traveling dog shows. They got Charlotte and Memphis, and this they'll probably win both of those games. So I think Sixers fans, it would be nice. It would be house money if they can get into the top six. But the main thing, let's keep the main thing with them. Let's win these last two games. Let's not lay an egg, a Friday night egg against Orlando. Let's handle Brooklyn and let the chips fall where they may. Now, I think, it's not like you're trying to win the Powerball here. There are some things that could fall your way. But we just, we'll have to just wait and see. But yeah, I mean, Cleveland's been struggling. They're 3-7 over their last 10 games. They haven't looked. I mean, they're one team I thought would be much better than they are this year. Granted, they had the injury problems in the backcourt throughout the season, but they just haven't lived up to. I don't think they played to their potential.
Nah, I mean, it's like, to me, dude, there's certain teams that are playoff teams and certain teams that are regular season teams. I've come to the conclusion that they're like a quality regular season team. I mean, because it's been that way for the previous 2 years too. Like, you get all up in. I mean, you like, yo, they're balling. Yeah, they're that, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, up, they choked again.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So like, I mean, that's Cleveland. I mean, and it's like, and it's crazy because they got nice young talent. They have an all-star. You know what I mean? Heck, multiple. Well, they had all-star this one year, but they have like multiple all-stars, right? Yeah. Then at the same time, you're like, that's Cleveland. And yeah, they got the Sixers to one game, but you think about it, like the Sixers were undermanned. The Cleveland Cavaliers were balling. The Sixers go in there and get them. Then it's like, that was a fluke. They're going to come here. We're going to see what they can do. And the Sixers came back and got them again. And then towards the end, they finally was like, nah, man, we can't keep letting this happen. We can't let these dudes embarrass us. And then they finally won. So I don't believe in the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm sorry to my cousins. I did, but I don't.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I believed in them earlier.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Last year when I went out there and I was talking to people there, like, several people who, like, know stuff about the team, they was like, well, Keith, they've been playing a lot of easy teams. And I looked it up and I was like, ooh, okay. But they did have the Sixers numbers last year, but I don't see it now. But look, y'all, I want y'all to know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV app. I also want to let you guys know that, and I want to thank you guys for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. For my man Mitch, I'm Keith. I want to thank you guys for listening, not just today, but every day. And we'll be back tomorrow to have more discussion about your favorite 76ers. So for Mitch, I would like to say peace.
Peace and blessings, folks.